Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon.
Well, folks, my heart is filled with joy. That's what it's like to be a retired teacher who reaches back and finds former students who are out in the world thriving and making the results that they can achieve matter greatly to their employers. In this case, I'm smiling big time because I've reconnected with Anthony Callegari, who works at Pratt & Whitney, a Raytheon company, and is in the supply chain part of the business where he and his team assure that all of the transactions between the suppliers and the people on the floor that are using those parts get exactly what they need on time and in perfect condition. When you think of the stakes of something that's going on to a jet engine, you want Anthony and his team to be the best. And I can tell you from the 30 minutes or so that you're going to hear me talking with him, and I'm certain that he is great at his job and we can fly safely. Well, wait a minute. They don't make commercial engines at this particular plant, but it's just a great pleasure to hear how well Anthony is doing, both professionally in his practice, but also has a nice home, nice family. I think he said 2 dogs after we stopped talking on camera. So that is the moment that I want to share with you with a big smile on my face. Anthony Callegari. Folks, I can remember one of my pleasures when I was actively teaching at Central Connecticut State University was to be invited by former students to visit them in their places of work. Sometimes I'd bring other students with me, but one of the last times that I did see Anthony Callegari was at one of his former places of work, and he was very actively involved in moving products, a distribution company, in a timely and hopefully low-cost way. And I felt he was very comfortable with that role. He and 2 of his other friends who were my former students were happily working there. But as it happens in young careers, this was about 12 years ago, companies change, and then I lost track of Anthony. So just a quick bit of history. Anthony, when you left that company, which we will not name, where did you go?
When I left that company, I was lucky enough to get my foot in the door for Pratt & Whitney into the global supply chain department, and as an entry level and start learning the ins and outs of aerospace. Now folks who are listening anywhere in the world, here in Connecticut, Pratt & Whitney is a premier employer, and it's not an easy thing to come out of a non-engineering program, you're a management major, and go into a very selective company. Did you have a relative in there? No. I think what really helped was my experience at the other company that we mentioned. I got my grounding and foundation in supply chain and procurement and helping with inventory there, that I was able to boost my resume. And these big companies with their algorithms, I was lucky enough to have applied during a very big hiring spree.
Yeah.
And I was able to fortunately get in. So
yeah. Well, you still have to sit, I think probably back then, maybe in person or at least on a camera with someone who's going to have that hiring decision. Do you remember that interview?
I do. So I remember actually applying, and then I don't know, a month or 2 went by and I completely forgot about applying there. And I was contacted through a phone call, and they asked if I wanted to come on site for an interview for what they called a super day. And so I went on site that day, and it was like speed dating, but for interviews. You sat at the table, sat at a table, and all the different hiring managers that were hiring at the time you would talk with each one for 15 minutes and then on to the next hiring manager. So it was a very unique experience to be in something like that. And I got to learn all the different types of roles they were hiring for and which one I felt I might be better suited for.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple more weeks went by, and then I started getting the phone calls and the offers. So it was nice it was definitely a unique experience for sure.
So you had to make that 15-minute count, 15 minutes several times during that speed dating. And one of the hiring managers was in the stream of work that you entered in and was hired for?
Correct. Yep.
Now, I would underscore here that those 15-minute where you express your strengths, because it's on paper and they can glance at the paper, where you can put into words with eye contact and heart beating fast what you offer that company. That's practice, because you had developed, and the resume search found out that you knew supply chain, and that was a big deal, obviously, at a company that was building jet engines. But still, that 15 minutes could have been a flop.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as with any interview, it's always stressful, and to have to sell yourself several times within a short amount of time, you, in the back of your head, you're like, oh, did I already talk about this point with you? Oh no, that was the last one. And you gotta be on your toes a little bit, and you want to make sure you cover everything. But you learn a lot from each interview. You get better and better, and you learn the types of questions to ask and what exactly the interviewer is looking for. They don't want you reading off the resume. They want to see what's not captured in the resume. And within the first 2 minutes, they know if you would be a good fit. So
yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
2 minutes. And look at your life now. Now, today you have a title of, what's your title?
I'm a senior delivery assurance manager.
Senior delivery assurance. That's a key word. Manager. So from that moment, those 2 minutes to now, a little bit has happened, hasn't it?
Quite a bit, yeah. So, I've been there almost 7 years now, and
yeah,
my first role is what they call an account specialist, supply chain, and in that role, I did a mix of writing purchase orders and working with suppliers to deliver those purchase orders. So there was a lot of negotiation, a lot of just learning processes, because I never worked aerospace before.
No, and it's wicked complex.
A lot of red tape, and you're dealing with a lot of cross-functional teams in areas that I didn't have expertise in, like talking engineering and blueprints and components, and that's why a part can't deliver because there's an issue. So very, very short window to learn, but that's where I felt like I learned best, is just go learn from practice, like you say. Like
there you go.
I'm not going to learn just from people telling me. I need to learn just being thrown in the fire and being forced to learn. Yeah.
Well, again, early on, those fires could have sizzled you to the extent that they say, well, we're not going to move you forward. Thank you. We're going in a different direction. All this BS that they throw, and we're basically saying, no, you haven't proven to us that you can get the results. That's the key word that matter most to us. So, and that goes at a basic way of thinking about practice. It's about results, and it's not just your results, which motivate you as it would when you're running, on a race or with your wife, or however, this is results that matter to a company that's assembling these very complex machines, probably some of the most complex on earth, and everything that you worked for to get into that supply chain and out to the shop had to be perfect, right? Or damn close.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't want the biggest thing is you want your suppliers to deliver on time, but
Mm-hmm.
you want them to deliver to what we're saying we want, right? They got to
Yeah, you don't open that box and go, oh no, there's no screws with this. You know?
Right. Yeah. Oh no, there's rust on here. What happened here? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the inside, the coming in, the input side. At this stage, leaping you out to the present, what sort of assurances are you focusing on now?
So I had a couple roles in between. I kind of developed my own leadership path and learning multiple aspects of the business within supply chain. They have a lot of different components. So I felt like my strengths were really in just communicating with suppliers and becoming a subject matter expert of certain areas. So that's what got me back into the delivery side of supply chain. Mm-hmm. And after learning this specific unit that I'm in now, I learned all the processes and really developed those relationships with the internal teams that I work with and the external suppliers that really.
So yeah, you're really in the middle, aren't you? In these roles, yeah.
We're right in the middle. We got deliverables to our internal stakeholders and got to work with the suppliers to get everything delivered on time, especially to the government.
What's your how do you charm? I mean, we're talking about human beings between these companies. We're not just talking about, hitting a button and making an electronic order, even though some of the things you might be able to do that way. But you still have to talk with people on both sides of this business to business transaction. Again, I'm in 2 minutes or less. Tell me why you're so good at it. What is it that they hear when you're talking to them, Anthony?
I think the biggest thing is just transparency. People don't like just to be told something they want to hear. They tell them like it is. Tell them you all have the same goal. You want to deliver these products to your customer. You want the customer to be happy with the product. You want it on time. And if there's fires and urgencies going on, like you can't beat around the bush. You got to be transparent with them. And I think that's a big thing. And another one is just picking up the phone and talking to people. People get too comfortable working via email, and being able to pick up the phone and make that call is a big conversation. It really helps develop the relationship.
Yeah.
And especially when you have local suppliers, let's go on site. Let's have instead of having our review on the phone this week, let's sit in a conference room and go over everything. So I think there's many ways to develop that relationship, but that's kind of where I think helped me the most.
Be as clear, direct, honest, and present. So either on site or even when someone is communicating with you, they don't get the feeling that while you're talking to them, let's say on the phone, you're also doing two things alone, or you're on Zoom with them, or whatever you guys use, but they're looking down at their phone. You're looking down at your phone. I mean, that kind of split attention is tough in any kind of retail or any kind of sales or whatever you name. People really are put off from it. But if you're consistently the guy, they say, let's call Anthony. We'll get this done right.
Right.
In a company where they don't suffer fools, and most of the suppliers are extremely serious, particularly the ones I've met here in Connecticut, that they want the next contract. So they're not going to let anything get loosey-goosey. Is that so? Or am I just making it up?
Oh, you're not making it up. They're always looking for more business, and it's cutthroat, right? If you're not if the suppliers are issues and quality issues and not delivering on time, there's a supplier waiting to win that next bid. So you got to make sure your suppliers are aware of what they need to deliver and when, so that they could meet these contracts. And we're in the aerospace capital of the world, I think, over here in Hartford, with all the small manufacturing.
Yeah, more so than ever. Yeah.
The competition is great. So,
Do you remember, I might have taken your class to one of the suppliers, which would be GKN Aerospace Structures. I used to have the cars follow me in there to show people. Really was a greenfield startup with Tony Kachese. It was a really neat guy. And he, Laurie Reese, and several others would come and speak to our classes. Do you have any recollection of that?
I don't think my class went on site there at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But having that immersion on my part, because I spent a lot of time learning with them about and shadowing how they were building the company that was making essentially the cowlings through carbon resin composite cowlings, which is for the new strike fighter. And it was a lot of pressure, but they had a culture that supported truth. Mm-hmm. That was how Tony laid it out from the beginning. Tell me the truth. I will not lose my not on it. I will listen, so I learned that in order to be a supplier to your company from the very beginning, there was no guarantees, and a lot of money was being spent to build up that workforce and equipment and all the rest. Still doing good work, and I don't know if it's one of your suppliers. You don't have to say so, but I've seen the other side of where your conversations go. And they really do rely on when they would say, well, the person from Pratt is coming out to look. It wasn't like, quick, hide everything under the table. No, it's like the person from Pratt's coming. So let's open ourselves up, and because what they need, we have. And right now we've got a partnership.
Right. And a lot of it's still like that when you go to these suppliers, like they want to show you all this new technology they're investing in their companies and these new capabilities, because the industry is evolving so fast, and even Pratt and Whitney's products have to evolve at such a fast pace. So the industry is just trying to stay on top of all the technology and machinery that they can, so that way these ramp ups in production can be met.
What's it like out on that? I know there's more than one shop there, but what's it like when you walk out there to talk to, with one of the team leaders about, their supply issues? Is it noisy? Is it bright? Is it,
yeah, it's noisy. These machines are running full time with big, large chunks of metal or whatever the commodity is. And they're working around the clock to get these out. And you see all the inspector tables, they're busy at work inspecting the tools. The shipping docks are full. So it's a busy business for sure.
Yeah. How does it feel? Is it exciting for you to be out there seeing it all happening?
It is. I personally like having that ability to go to these suppliers and seeing some of the tools and equipment we're purchasing. Just if I was sitting at a computer all day and just seeing part numbers and, oh, cool, this part number is getting worked on, it delivered, yay. And to me, it's a part number, but being on the floor and seeing how little it is or how big it is, you're like, oh, that's what I'm buying. And it really puts into perspective all the little intricacies that go into making a part. And
and then getting it up onto those engines, and there's so much to it. I get a sense, and I remember this about you from way back, that you like competition in the good sense of competition. You like to be part of something that's got energy and is happening. And now, if you were to be asked to do nothing but a paper pencil job at that company and put you in a cubicle and say, okay, just make sure the paperwork's good, how long do you think you'd last?
It depends on the pay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And by the way, we'll double your pay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Well, there are some people, many people who reach the senior level that you're at now in terms of the performances you're doing, but also they may start looking ahead to say, well, we want to put you in a manager side of things, which does tend to be more, watching the spreadsheets and
PowerPoint presentations.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Are you attracted to that potential?
I like being able to, this is my first time moving up where I have a team under me that reports directly to me now. And I'm constantly learning that and already putting together a lot of presentations and whatnot. But what I like is I'm able to, I have a lot of requirements that are expected of me, but I could also have a lot of that empowerment to make the role what I want it to be too. So I could delegate certain tasks, I could take on certain tasks, and I'm going to use my team to utilize our strengths. So it's for something that somebody else might have been doing, but they might not have really enjoyed it or been good at. Maybe I'll take that because I like it, and then I'll hand off some of their technical work to them. So I like having that freedom and being able to work with my team and making sure everyone's happy with what they're doing. And
well, that's a very good way to prepare yourself for whatever comes next. Now, in regard to your team, are they mainly seasoned people, or are you bringing some new Anthony's up into and Antonias up into your team?
So right now it's a team I've been working with since I joined this particular team 3 years ago.
Okay, so you're moving from being a member to a senior leader. Yeah.
Right, and that's a part I have to work around because they were my colleagues for 3 years, and now I'm managing them.
It's a classic issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I still go out for a beer with Anthony? Right,
exactly. So I think what's helped is I was a good teammate for them too. So I enjoyed working with them, and they enjoyed working with me. So it's made this transition definitely a little on the easier side for sure.
Yeah. And you are the next, you are the linkage to the next tier on behalf of that team. And as you say, you make presentations. So it could be comforting to them to know you as well as they do, and know that you're the one who's in there advocating, for their needs and explaining things that need to be explained. So that's a nice match.
I think that's what helped too is I worked in the weeds with them, right? I was in the trenches with them. I know what it's like. So they understand that. So
what is it working with are you reporting to a director or someone at that level? How's that relationship work out?
Yeah, that's been very good. I think what's really helped me in this role was my previous manager had put me on the path to come in this role, and I was his deputy for the last year and a half. So I was
that's great.
I was already getting a taste of a lot of these higher up meetings, these presentations. I was helping him assemble it, and sometimes I'd help go to those meetings and present it. So I got the visibility for a while. I developed those relationships so that when it came time, I just was able to step right in. I didn't have to reintroduce myself to many people. So
that's terrific. Yeah. That's terrific. Yeah. Well, in the last few minutes, I would love to have folks hear the benefit that one has of graduating from our school, as you did over 10 years ago, going through what you've gone through and spoken to us about. And now you've established yourself. Mm-hmm. So you have a home, right?
I have a beautiful home, beautiful family, beautiful neighborhood with a lot of friends, same age, and it's been great.
What town are you in?
I'm out in Coventry.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. I mean, it's and there's a lake, and not too far from Yukon, which we used to call the safety school to CCSU, right? But being close to Yukon could be pretty exciting too, because it's grown and they've got a lot going on, and yet it's a very nice area. In fact,
especially with our kids, it's nice. We're less than 15 minutes down the road from Yukon. We can just take them to a basketball game and not have to break the bank for it.
And take them to let me do a little Fearon history. When I was in the doctoral program at Yukon, my kids were 3 and 1 or 4 and 2, and we'd bring them up from Mansfield Center to the pond where they would feed those voracious ducks. Is they still doing that, or maybe they don't allow that anymore?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We're talking almost more than 50 years ago, because both of my kids are in their 50s. But that was one of the pleasures. And then there was a puppeteer. If you ever come across it, they had a puppet theater there, Ballard puppets, and that was a big treat. The kids would go because it's a puppet program. I don't know if they still have that at Yukon.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, you should. How old are your children?
3 and 7 months. So 3 years old and 7 months. So
yeah. And the 3-year-old probably gets a little when he's at the pavilion at a basketball game and hears that crowd. I don't know, either he's thrilled by it or he's got his head stuck under your arm.
Oh yeah, we're still the short attention spans and just
squirming.
Trying to expose them to all the different sports and fun things outside of just running around in the yard. So.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, you are what I worked for so hard for 30 years at CCSU. I don't know if you knew it was all concentrated on you, but in a way it was, because I've had a vision, and I had it all along, that because we were a working school, people worked their way through our school. Some had 1 or 2 jobs. We had an ethic there that everyone had a very challenging course load, and they still did it. So when someone would graduate from Central, the momentum was already there. They could move into a responsible role and keep on working. So, but I'd love to picture the kind of future you just described, where I could look across a classroom and I could look at someone and say, boy, wouldn't it be great? Someday they'll own their own home, have some kids if they want them, maybe a cat and a dog.
Got 2.
a nice partner, and live in a neighborhood with people who talk across the fence and kick up a volleyball game every once in a while, or throw a basketball in someone's yard. That is the dream. And I'm so, so happy for you to have achieved that. And you got a lot more good stuff ahead.
Absolutely. And I could definitely credit probably this whole career to you, because it all started when I reached out to you. I wasn't happy at the bank. I reached out to you, used my network, and you put me in contact with a former student that got me my first office supply chain job. So
exactly,
it really set me on this path. So I
do remember that. I now that you brought it up, I remember you were. Thank goodness you were unhappy.
Yeah, thank goodness I was unhappy.
And thank goodness I liked calling former students and saying, hey, I've got a guy or I've got a woman. Yeah. You should talk to them. So that's a great pleasure. Well, thank you again, Anthony Callegari. And I will look forward to another time to catch up. Maybe another child from now.
I don't know about that. Thanks, Doc.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Practice Podcast, where we discuss practice with a capital P. If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to enactionresearch.com/podcast-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to enactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
How could I have forgotten? Our digital book on practice as a way of being is now available. You'll find it online at www.mylibrary.world. I worked on that book after Peter passed away, and I think you will find it a unique and very, very mobile reading experience, since it's wherever your screen is in hand or at hand.